Thank you, David, and I'm so glad to see everybody. I miss all of you, and this is the first time I have spoken since the shelter in place, so hoping my voice will hold up. It's been a wild ride, and it probably has been for you too. And I chose the topic today, before you go back to normal, because as you know, some of the restrictions are beginning to lift and people are starting to go and do things out in the world again. And just the other day I was out in my front yard gardening, and one of my neighbors walked by and I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm really looking forward to things going back to normal." And I said, yeah, me too. I said, "But there's some things about normal that I don't really want to go back to." And he gave me a really kind of odd look, and he said, "Well, have a good evening," and he walked along. But I've really had some time to pause and think about what has been going on in my life, which I'll share with you, and what's going on in the world. I mean, just the events of this week have given me pause to reflect. And some of you know, I've had the double whammy in this shelter in place, because right around the time when we were just starting the shelter in place, I became ill. I came down with, I don't think that's the right way to say it, but I developed hyperthyroidism. And as a result, I not only had to shelter in place, but I couldn't do anything. I could sit, I could lie down, I could sit in the front yard or on the couch for about 2 or 3 weeks in the thick of it. That was about all that I could manage. I couldn't even do gentle yoga. I had to be helped upstairs. I had one step at a time. I had to stop and wait for my heart to slow down again, because some of the symptoms are rapid heart rate and erratic heart rate and pounding and hot and can't sleep. So there were about 2 weeks where I slept maybe 1 or 2 nights. 1 or 2 hours in the night. So I've had this double whammy of really being sequestered as like a spiritual retreat, of going within and reflecting on my life, because I look at everything that happens in my life as an opportunity, as some sort of gift from the universe or from the divine. It doesn't always seem like one, does it? This shelter in place doesn't seem like a gift. The coronavirus doesn't seem like a gift. But things happen, and so I look at it as, okay, what's being offered to me here? So I'll share with you a little bit of that process and why I don't really want to go back to normal. Because if you look at what normal means, normal is conforming to a standard, right? It's the usual, typical, it's what's expected. And I think if you're coming to a service like here at Unity of San Jose, you're looking for something extraordinary in your life. You're not willing to settle for just normal or to be just normal. You know that there's something greater in you and some greater possibility in your life than just normal. In fact, I'll share with you, when I was in elementary school, I remember having this clear insight and intention that normal people they seemed weird. Normal people didn't seem as authentic, as real. I didn't feel connected to them. They seemed to be more interested in an image of just keeping up the appearances and looking normal. And so I made a decision to myself that weird was normal and normal was weird. So I was choosing weird because for me, that would be normal. That would be who I'd want to be. So just to share a little bit of that with you, that from a young age, I was committed to my spiritual journey. I was committed to what is Spirit calling me forth for, not just what would be normal and expected. A lot of us I grew up in the 70s. So, what was normal and expected was starting to change for women back then. But it was still, fairly traditional. So I knew there was something else in my life that I wanted to open to, and it could look like normal, but it had to be authentic. It had to come from my true self and from my calling and from the divine, something beyond just what everybody expected of you. So that's the old story. And we had this story before we went into shelter in place of whatever it was in your life. And we had a planetary story too, right? That, we valued profits over the people in the planet. That, we were a throwaway society and we threw a lot of things away, a lot of trash, and we overconsumed. And we have some of the highest rates of disease and illness in our nation amongst all the Western nations. That's the old story. And we've been given some time to take a look inside. We don't need to continue that story. And if we don't want to continue that story, what new story do we want to create? And I don't have answers to all of that today. I don't have answers to the issue of racism and what's happened to George Floyd, but I know for sure that I've got to ask the questions of myself. Like David was saying, like what within me do I need to look at for that? And what can I do? What action can I take to help create the change that we want to see in the world right now? So creating that new story together. We may have had a story that our life is a struggle, or that bad things always seem to happen. We don't need to continue that kind of story, or that the virus might get us, or that there's nothing that we can do about it. That's old story. We've been given this time to go within, and we're still in it, and it's not over, and it's going to be a process of looking at what new story do we want to create for the world and for our lives. And so what I've come up with is a process which I've been going through that you might have also been going through. You may not have looked at it this way, and it has to do with woe. So first we have what David was talking about 2 weeks ago about victim consciousness. The woe is me, that, oh, this is so difficult. And I'm not in any way going to negate the suffering that people have been going through economically, their businesses, their work. There's definitely been a lot of challenges. People have been sick. Some people may know someone who died of coronavirus or of something else for that matter, right? So there's been challenges. Those are circumstances that we may not be able to change, but we know that we can change our experience of those circumstances by what we put our attention on and what we focus on. And so we can shift from that woe is me, right? Woe meaning sorrow. Woe means great sorrow and distress. We don't have to buy into that this is creating great sorrow and distress in my life. We might be feeling some pain and suffering in the moment, but that doesn't have to be a story about our whole life. And that our whole life actually maybe from some of that distress, maybe from some of that suffering, can emerge as something new. Recently, I've been watching some videos by a doctor named Zach Bush. If you haven't heard of him, I recommend you check him out because he's pretty amazing. And he's a triple board certified doctor in internal medicine, endocrinology, and hospice. And he reminded us all of what we know here in this spiritual community, that death is not the end. He says it's the rebirth. It's a rebirth and a regeneration. And we all see it actually all around the planet, that actually all of life depends on death, the cycle of death coming back into life. We have to have the compost on the earth floor for the plants to have enough nutrients and nourishments to grow, for the seeds to germinate and come alive. And so looking at the bigger cycle of things, and that we are always going through a death and rebirth process in our lives. And I feel like I've been going through that through this shelter in place and through my illness. So there were times where I got a bit into that, woe is me, like, why me? Why did I get this hyperthyroidism thing? The doctors don't know. They couldn't figure it out. I don't have Graves' disease, which is the autoimmune version of that, which is what people typically have when they get hyperthyroidism. They don't know. So I had to answer that question for myself. Rather than, okay, this has happened to me, and it's horrible, and it's terrible, and it's bad, and I can't do anything, and I'm sick, and I took a look at, all right, rather than woe is me, I'm going to say, whoa. When you ride a horse, what do you say to get the horse to stop? You say, whoa. You pull on the reins. Full stop. Full stop here into this moment. And choosing to become present as much as I can in this moment right now. All right, what's happening for me in this moment right now? What am I feeling physically? What am I feeling emotionally? and what thoughts am I having? Until we can shift from woe is me to whoa, full stop, we can't really know what's going on inside of ourselves. We can't really know what we're thinking and how that's affecting what we're experiencing. We can't really ask the important questions that we need to ask to help create that new story. So I was asking myself, okay, how did I get here? How did I get this hyperthyroidism? And I did some research about what that means. It's related to this area in the yogic tradition, the fifth chakra, the throat chakra, expressing your truth, communicating. It's also related to, because hyperthyroidism makes you feel amped up and sped up, moving around too quickly, doing too much too fast. And that was definitely the story of my life. And it's been that way for many years. I go through these periods of time where I'm doing way too much and I'm too amped up and I'm excited about things, but I've overloaded myself. And finally, my body says, whoa, full stop. You've got to see that this is not healthy for your well-being, not just for my physical body, but the more I got busy, and I justified it with, well, I'm teaching more and I'm seeing more clients and I'm doing all these great things. But the more I got busy, the less I was meditating, the less I was doing yoga, the less I was spending time outdoors, the less I was being creative and doing the things that brought me joy, maybe even the less that I was spending time with my family. The things that filled me, that renewed me, that regenerated me, that connected me to the divine the most, the busier I got, the more they dropped off the list. Have you ever noticed that? You know, you get busy with work, you get busy with this project, you get busy with your taxes, you get busy with whatever it is. And slowly, those things that you know really matter, you know make a difference, but they just kind of fall off the priority list, slowly but surely. So I knew, okay, this has got to change. I have this precious time where my body is forced to be still, where I can't even do simple yoga poses, to get really clear about this and to start to put in practice things that really matter to me. What are my values? What do I really value in my life? So one of the things that I really value is the planet, the health of the planet, and along with that, the health of the food I'm eating and the ecosystem that it comes from, and the microbiome. That's all the microorganisms that nurture the soil, that give us food that's full of nutrients rather than food that's depleted because we depleted our soils. This is another thing that I was learning from Dr. Zach Bush. But something that's been important to me for a long time is I want to eat organic, I want to eat local, because I know it's good for the planet and it's good for our local area and our local economy, and farmers that are trying to raise food in a way that I believe in. And I want to cook. And I am not the best cook in the world, folks, okay? It's not easy for me to cook. I have to have a recipe and I have to follow it. And if it says it takes 30 minutes to prepare it, it will take me an hour. But it's a value to me. I want to cook fresh, healthy food for me and my family. So I knew that there were things that I valued, things that were important to me, my meditation practice, that I was not really doing, I was not committing to. Waste and consumption. You know, I don't spend probably as much as the average American does on stuff, but I knew I was buying more stuff than I needed to. I knew that I was dropping in at Marshall's a little bit too often to see what was there that might look good, okay? And it's not a bad thing. It's just that I know what my values are. I don't need all that stuff. So I looked back at the first 2 months of this shelter in place. I was sick and wasn't going out anywhere. I actually signed up for community service agriculture, which is fresh vegetables and fruits delivered to our door every week, a couple times a week, to step into really wanting to own that not everything I was getting at Whole Foods was organic, especially from the hot bar. right? I wasn't cooking. I was buying it from the hot bar at Whole Foods thinking, well, that's Whole Foods. It's better than Safeway. But honestly, it's not organics that are in the hot bar. It's Whole Foods, very few, right? So I committed. That's a value for me. So I committed to that, started getting delivered at home, started cooking as my energy came back and I could do that. Started learning to cook things that I was uncomfortable making. Okay, planning ahead, I would have to take 2 hours maybe to prepare this, but I'm gonna learn to do this. And feeling good about what I was eating. So I was, and getting my meditation practice back online. That one thing I could do was sit. Now it was, honestly, it was hard to meditate when my heart was pounding a lot. So as that started to calm down, I would bring my sitting meditation on, but what I would do is I would walk, and I would do walking meditation out in the garden. I would sit outside, which is something that brings me joy, that fills my soul, and listen to and watch the birds and see every day what's blooming. I started a garden. So my daughter and I had wanted to grow vegetables in our garden, and we tried it in the fall. And we failed utterly because I didn't bother to protect the seeds and sprouts from getting eaten by the critters. So as soon as I felt better, we got, and some of you may have seen on my Facebook feed, I took pictures of, we not only started a garden from seed and also from plants, but one of my values is reducing my waste, especially plastic waste. Well, some of the deliveries I was getting from Whole Foods were coming in these plastic shiny thermal bags that are not going to be reused. And I was, grateful to get my frozen vegetables that way, but horrified that this is just going to get thrown away. So what we decided to do is cut holes in the bottom of them, turn them inside out so it wasn't so shiny and blinding out in the garden. We filled them with soil, we put seeds in them, and we used those as containers as well. So now we have sprouts all over coming up of lettuce and herbs and tomatoes and other vegetables. That means a lot to me. And the joy I feel every morning, and my daughter, every morning we're excited to go out and see what's sprouting now. I bring new life by intentionally creating this garden and growing food. That matters to me. So I went from woe is me to like, whoa, stop. Who do I want to be? What do I really value? What changes do I want to make in my life? So there's some things that I want to let go of. So my spending, March and April, 90% just food and healthcare, because I obviously had some healthcare bills, right? I went to urgent care 3 times. I had all these blood draws, all kinds of things. Food and healthcare, you know what? That's what really matters to me. Right? That's what really matters to me. For you, decide what matters to you. What are your values? What's important to you? And what connects you to the divine? What works for you? Is it meditation? Is it chanting? Is it prayer? Is it spending time in the garden? Is it going for a hike? I'm looking forward to having enough energy to be able to go out for a hike in the redwoods where my soul feels alive. Where does your soul feel alive? If you can't go there, we can neurologically recreate some of the same experience, fire off those same neurons of what it was like to be in the redwood forest by me sitting and visualizing it in meditation, that I'm there. I'm touching the bark of the redwood trees, and I'm seeing the redwood sorrel that looks kind of like shamrocks growing at the base of the tree, and I'm touching the soft moss that might be growing on the north side of the tree where it's cooler and not as sunny. And I'm smelling the decomposing bay leaves that I smell when I'm there in that forest, and I can hear the little chit of the junco birds. We can recreate some of that experience in our neurobiology by visualizing it with all of the senses that we can. So maybe for you, it's the ocean. It's going to the ocean and imagining that salt air and the breeze blowing in your hair and walking on the sand right at the edge where the water laps over your toes. And I like to pick up try and find polished glass, which is both picking up trash and finding something beautiful that I can maybe make into something when I go home, and hearing the sounds of the seagulls. So what is it for you? On a mountaintop? Is it at a lake, or sitting by a stream or a creek? Or maybe it's creating art, something beautiful in your life. So we go from woe is me to whoa, full stop, become present, to whoa is me. Whoa, that sense of awe, that sense of beauty, that sense of joy within me, that sense of when I, as David was talking about us all being one and connecting to everyone on the planet, and not just everyone, but everything, that I am part of every living thing here. I'm breathing the oxygen that was exhaled by the plants. I've eaten the food that grew in the soil that was nurtured by the microbiome, by all the fungi and all the bacteria and everything there that was helping to nurture that plant growing. We're one with all of that. Whoa is me. That's all within us. That's in every cell of our being. Did you know we have trillions of cells in our body, but not just that. We have quadrillions of the microbiome in our body, of bacteria and viruses and fungi. This is another thing I learned from Dr. Zach Bush, that are supporting our whole ecosystem of our body. When I learned that, I felt so grateful. I felt so grateful that on my skin, in my gut, in all different areas of my body, there's all these microorganisms that are also part of creating my health and well-being and supporting my life. We wouldn't live without them. We would not live without our microbiome. I felt so grateful. Whoa, whoa is me. There's so much in me, in you, that is that love, that infinite source of love is pouring through us. It wants to. It wants to pour through us if we open. If we just open to receive it. We don't have to be good enough. We already are. There's nothing we have to do. I sat on my butt for 2 months in the shelter in place and in my recovery from hypothyroidism, realizing that there's nothing I have to do. There's nothing I have to do. I am that divine love. I already am. The being of who I am, the being of who you are. Whoa. That's where our aliveness is. That's where that infinite love is. That's where spirit is right in there. And the best way that we can feel it and know it, connect to it, is to say, whoa, stop, be present, feel, and experience the whoa of life, the whoa of awe, of beauty, of amazement, already right here in you, already right outside your door, outside your window, looking at the clouds and the miracle of the moisture that travels around our planet to water everything here and bring us the water to drink. The whoa of the miracle of our body and how it does what it does. The whoa of how by changing our thoughts and by making a choice, we can create positive change in our life. We can end racism. We can heal our planet. We can stop waste. We can nurture and nourish our soil again to grow the beautiful microbiome and the beautiful flora and fauna of this planet. It's all in you. I rediscovered that in me during this time, and I'm so grateful for it. And it's not over, and I don't have all the answers yet, and I haven't made all the changes I want to make yet, but that's what's exciting, is that we have that in front of us. We have the rest of our lives to keep saying, whoa, stop. Whoa, what's here within me? Rediscovering it, making choices in every moment. So if it aligns with your truth and you're willing, if you would, and let's see if this works, because if it doesn't, we'll have to mute everybody again, but let's unmute everybody and you can join with me few wonderful affirmative statements. Are you game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So if it's true for you, repeat after me. Whoa is me.
Whoa is
Oh,
me.
it's me.
Woe is me.
I have
Wow.
unimagined possibilities within me.
I have unimagined possibilities in me.
I feel the awe of life.
I feel the awe of life.
Feel the awe of life.
I can transform my thoughts.
I can transform my thoughts.
I can change my life.
I can change my life.
I have the ability to make a difference in the world.
I
Have the ability to make a difference in the world.
Whoa is me.
Oh,
Oh, it's me.
Me.
Oh, it's me.
All right.
thank
So
you,
let's
thank you.
let's mute again and let's take it inward a little bit. Sacred moment. Oh, there we go. Now I'm on. Let's take it inward again to this sacred moment in time. It's always this sacred moment. Always. This precious present moment. This is the moment where you can choose again. This is the moment where we can be born again. We can rebirth ourselves with the next breath. So take that next breath in, receive it. And as you exhale, you can let go of whatever you don't need, whatever you want to release. You know this. But every breath can remind us again, can reawaken that again. We can breathe in the, not the woe, W-O-E, but the W-H-O-A. We can breathe in the woe of awe, of possibility, of truth, of infinite divine presence. And as we breathe out and release, we can expand to the whole universe. We can expand our sense of connection and oneness between all peoples, between all beings, between all life, between all of existence. The stars are right here, right now, because everything on this planet came from that same matter that made those stars. That infinite ability to shine like the light of the sun is in us. You can unleash your inner shining star by finding the woe, the awe, beauty, the love, the infinite source of inspiration that can show you the way when you're feeling the sorrow, the distress, can show you the way that today, this moment, there's a new possibility. May you be bathed in that awe, in that beauty, in that love, in that truth. And may you remember it with every breath. And so it is.